Free advice, would you like some free advice? Free advice forever.
Welcome to the podcast. This
Welcome,
is
guys.
episode 17.
Wow, we're getting spicy. We're into our late teens.
Yeah. What was 17 like for you, huh, Morgan?
Horrible. I was depressed as fuck.
I really like the way the numbers look next to each other.
Yeah, me too.
Not to change the topic from your depression.
Oh no, that's okay.
But the 1 is kind of like it's going to grow into a 7 if you do a 1 with that little tilde at the start. The little.
Sure.
What do you call the handle? I think that's called a handle.
Okay, we can call it
that kind of 1. No,
Yeah.
when I'm writing a 1, only a crazy person writes their 1s like that.
I
But
mean,
I
is that a
recognize it
serif?
on signage. Yeah, it's a serif, I believe.
Okay.
But I think a handle, if it's like a little curve at the start,
It's tipping its hat to you.
yeah, that's like, a cursive P that you start with.
Sure.
A little upstroke,
Yeah.
a little concave up on your 1s. Now, if you
little
do that on
scoop.
your 1s, you're a crazy person, or
Little
you're
scoop-a-doo.
European. Some Europeans will just draw a fucking mountain and call that their 1, a skinny, tall triangle without the base. And they're like, that's
What?
a 1. Yeah, they'll do like 2 1s that have
I've never
just
seen
slanted
this.
into each other.
I've never seen a
Yep.
TP one.
Look for the TP 1. It's out there. The 110.
I bet now I'll see them everywhere.
If you go to Europe, you will.
I don't have any plans to. Maybe there are Europeans here that I will read their writing.
There are. I met a nice Finnish man named Yoni last night.
Oh yeah,
Didn't see any of his handwriting, but
I know a few Yonis.
Did you?
My dad's
Any of them
nickname-
kindergarten teachers? Could be
No.
the same one. Oh,
No,
okay.
I don't think so. My dad's nickname for my mom was Yoni.
Aw.
Her name's Joan, so I don't.
That makes sense.
He
You
know,
soften the
sonic
J into a
departure.
yeah.
Right.
It's like uninvolving your tongue, I guess, from the J. J.
Yeah.
That requires me to press my
Yeah.
tongue against my roof. And
Yeah.
Yeah. I just like let my
Yeah.
tongue go soft, and then the J becomes a yeah.
So it's like lazy.
Yeah. It's like a lazy.
If you want to put a negative term on it.
It's easy. It's breezy. It's softer. It's more relaxed.
Yeah.
Yoni.
Yoni.
Yai is even more. Then you don't even have to close
Yoni.
for the N.
Yeah, if you don't put your tongue up there for the N, it just sounds like Y-O-Y. Yoy.
Yeah.
Yoy. So, what are you bringing to the table today?
All right.
Anything?
Here's some advice I want to ask you for, if that's what you're getting at.
Please.
Most of human history, people didn't have soap, right?
I guess not.
Isn't that true? Like soap
I
is
guess not.
Soap
I guess
is not
not.
something that came with the man evolution. It's like not as soon as we were
Well-
human, we didn't have soap.
Yeah. Because, I mean, we probably made something to approximate soap or fill in the role of soap. Like a fat.
Sure, there's
sort of
something.
fatty-
By the time Jesus is around, I'm sure we've got
Oh,
something
yeah.
soapy.
Yeah.
But most of hunting and gathering, I assume, is pretty soapless or entirely
Yeah,
soapless.
some of it. I would say some of it. I'm sure some kind of cleansing substance.
Animals don't use soap.
That's true.
They're fine.
But they like rub up against stuff, I mean, it's
So
not
do I.
soap. It's
All the time. The couch cushions in my old house.
sure, it's not soap. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
When they handle the things that they're eating, which is usually raw meat, they're fine. How is that okay? How long do they wait before they touch their mouths or put their fingers in their nose after touching something that's dead? And how is that just okay? Like, do we need soap only like in the way that we need toothpaste only because it's a reaction to the modern processed sugars that rot our teeth? Like, we wouldn't need to brush our teeth if we ate naturally.
So, actually, toothbrushes are another thing that, people had tools for. Like, I remember I was in Kenya once, and they showed me like
I have these
when you rip
sticks.
the branch apart, and
Yeah.
it had kind of.
I have one of those in my bathroom.
Okay, so I don't know about that specifically, and I don't know.
I'm
why
just
I
using
needed
that
to
as an
share
analogy.
those
I'm talking
with
about soap
Kenya.
here.
I know, but I'm trying to like break down the question via parallel pathways.
My advice question is, can I stop washing my hands and it'll be cool?
Define cool.
Fine. Okay. Will
Like,
I
would you
suffer any?
survive?
Yeah. Will I suffer any serious repercussions for doing that? Or will I get better?
You think that like
I might get better.
immune system wise?
Yeah. Or will I make the species better?
Is the process of washing your hands like too laborious for you right now? Or do you just feel like it's unnecessary? I could trim it from my rituals.
There are moments that it seems impossible because I'm in the woods, and I notice that I don't wash my hands when I'm out camping, and I'm fine.
Yeah, I think you would be fine. I mean, my urge to wash my hands often is like internal. Like I'll just feel like, oh, I would feel better if I knew my hands were clean.
And a more perhaps impactful slant to take on this is the more often in my day that I feel disgust, the worse. Like it primes me to feel that rejection of like, ooh, something is wrong. I need to fix it. I need to make it perfect.
Okay,
Instead
so
of
it's
accepting
like obsessive
whatever.
compulsive.
Yeah, I think just the more you would say that you're a person you're a poop smith and you get poop on your hands all the time and you're always washing it off. I think that would train your brain to look for poop and think about how things are dirty. And if you're not a poop smith and you're just handling some ground beef every evening when you're cooking your dinner, maybe that's okay and you can just wipe them on a towel or on your pants and go on with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that at a certain point back when we rewind, as you were trying to start this epic tale with, like people just bathed their full selves.
Yeah.
And there wasn't maybe specific efforts
You just get
to
in the river.
wash your hands. You just get in the
just get in
river,
your
or you
rub
like rub your hands in the
on a
river if
rock.
there's something you don't want to like
You got to rub and rock.
rub and rock or rub and leave.
The original soap was probably just stones like pumice with holes in them that kind of scratch you a little bit. And
Right.
That feels nice to get whatever stuck to you off of you if there's like something caked on you. But that plus water. Water, I believe, breaks down bonds and cleanses. Water has cleansing properties.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Surely by its like renewal. Like
Okay.
The passage of it. But yeah, I don't know. What is the point of soap, really? I mean, is soap all psychological?
No, it definitely kills germs. I know that.
No, I know, but
that doctor who came up with germ theory and introduced soap into the operating room like did more to revolutionize medicine than anybody else, and people stopped dying from routine surgeries constantly.
Else?
Anything else about what soap's good for?
No, I mean,
Do I have any other questions for advice?
No. Too
All right,
broad. You're broadening out too
yourself.
quick. You said
I'll practice listening. Go ahead, I'm listening. I'm waiting for it.
You're listening in a very toxically masculine way.
I'm just trying to receive you.
I just keep taking up all this space and wondering why I haven't received you yet.
I'm holding so much space for you.
Hurry up and get in this space. What are you doing over there?
My ears are gaping.
It seems way too silly to go back to it now, but
Okay.
I will.
All right, good.
The germ guy. You
Yeah.
think that was the most important,
He
most
definitely rebranded
impactful?
after he made that discovery. He's like, yeah, I'm the germ guy. Check my new Twitter handle at the germ guy. It's like Bill Nye, but for germs.
If he was German, that would have been even better.
Oh, yeah.
He's the German guy. You think that was the most beneficial invention ever than anything else? You were so confident.
No, I said in medicine.
I know, still.
Yes.
Within that category even.
I believe it saved the most lives of anything that we've figured out in medicine.
Okay.
Because the awareness that there are bacteria.
Right.
That hurts people and that infections are caused that way, that it's not like a demon possessing a person. And we figured out that mechanism, and that's like one of the big things that makes trauma fatal.
I also want to put a disclaimer out there that we don't fact check any of this, and no one plans to. And if you want to, please go ahead, take on that job and email us about the most impactful inventions on saving lives in modern
You're
medicine.
right. I didn't research this just before, but I think it's coming from the book Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson. And I believe that
I got a reference.
Yeah.
It's a rarity on this
I think
show.
the doctor's last name was Lister. I think he's related to Listerine, or they named after him or something like that. That's my association in my head.
Whoa.
I am about 80% confident in that source and name.
So if someone wants to look that up and totally disprove Rob's 80% confidence,
Please email us at freeadvicepodcast@gmail.com with any of your corrections and notes on today's episode.
Or if you just think we're being dumb.
Yeah.
That's all right too.
We'll send you back an emoji of a thumbs up.
Yeah. For reference, in that particular category, Rob and I were talking before we started recording. I am having a quite slow day, so I'd like to take this opportunity to apologize both to Rob and to you guys for any harm that may cause or inconvenience.
I'd like to remind you of a fable made by
Was it one of Aesop's?
Made by one of my favorite fabulists, Aesop.
Who's your second favorite fabulist?
Probably my dad.
Oh.
Yeah, now you feel like an asshole, don't you?
No. So what did Aesop say?
So there was a tortoise, and he had a counterpart who was a hare. And the tortoise
I've heard of this one.
was very slow. The hare was very fast. But who won the race? The tortoise, because the hare decided to take a nap right before the finish line. And that's what's going to happen today, I predict. You're going to win the podcast because I'm going to totally blow my load at the beginning, and then I'm going to take a nap.
Take a nap during lightning round.
Take a big nap. I'm going to get struck by lightning. I'm going to be dead, and you're going to have to close out the podcast by yourself.
Very slowly.
Yes.
One shelled, crackled lizard foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
All right. Reptilian, not lizard, because we're talking about a tortoise.
Do you have any advice that you'd like to ask me for?
I think that was it.
Perhaps
I mean, it
about
was
your
like,
current
how do I get through the next 40 minutes of my life?
What animal can you make your mascot? Well, a tortoise.
Yeah.
Or even a turtle. Tortoise is kind of hard to imagine.
Well, speaking of hares, I didn't put Cosmo out on the porch, so Cosmo's right there behind me. He could be my spirit animal. Although, if I guess appropriately,
This
he's
is
just
Morgan's
lying
rabbit.
there doing nothing. Yep, that checks out.
Okay. Good.
So we'll just leave him there. He's getting over his cold. Thank you for asking. He's been a little less lethargic lately. Still experiencing some nasal discharge.
Could I give some unsolicited advice?
Yeah.
What if you decorated his cage with a little finish line and he could nap next to it and it would look like the hair from the tortoise and the hare?
If you heard anything that I just said, it means that you know that I
That
think
you
that's
like
a very
it.
cute idea.
Yeah,
And
Sad or
probably
sad?
that I won't do it.
Okay.
It's a little defeated.
Maybe it's something that I could do for you as
Thank
a
you.
friend gift.
Cool. Well, let's discuss it. Like, let's workshop options before you just like commit to this decision. Because I'm sure there's something that like I would appreciate more than like Cosmo having a finish line, or like still a Cosmo based decoration improvement, but maybe not that one.
Maybe not that one. What if
We'll
it
see.
came with a little Speedy, the Beanie Baby? I have several Speedies in my room.
You would give me your Speedy, one of your Speedies?
Probably not. I'd get a new one for you.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah. Let's just table it. We'll just workshop it. We'll
All
just
right.
we'll workshop
All right.
it.
How about we start giving other people advice? Does that
I think
seem
that sounds
for you?
good.
All right, great.
So, what would you think about doing the lightning round first? Would that be insane?
You're in charge. I'll follow you into the darkness, even if it's storming.
Whoa. Okay. All right. Let's start with the lightning round today. Choo 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 choo. Lil Bat, LILBAT 76 asks, can sleeping naked be dangerous? It's more comfortable, but nobody is doing it. Why? This is a scientist. You can just tell.
Yes. Where did you get your data that nobody's doing it?
Right?
I'd like to see a source on that.
Yeah. It's like him and one other person.
That being said, I sleep in my underwear.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not naked when I sleep, generally.
Neither am I.
I've done it. I've done it more than a handful of times, but it's not my
Right.
frequent default.
Yeah, me neither.
I like feeling contained by underwear.
Me too.
Yeah.
I find it distracting. But the real question that he's asking, even though he's double packed it with this scientific inquiry, is can it be dangerous?
Of course.
Anything can
If
be
you
dangerous.
do it at the wrong situation, it's going to be dangerous.
Okay,
So what's
what's
the
fine?
wrong
Yeah.
situation? You have hypothermia and your body feels hot, but that's a misdirection. It's trying to trick you. A lot of people get hypothermia and then they take their clothes off because they feel warm. No. Keep those clothes on. Keep those clothes on. Don't go to sleep. Stay away.
Don't trust those signals.
You'll die.
Okay. I'm imagining sort of a scenario where having an extra layer of clothing on would be at least a barrier between you and like something else. So like, for example,
Bees.
either yes, bees would be the number one example. The number two example would be an attacker of some kind. And then the number three example would be, let's say you wake up and there's like a fire and you have to get out urgently. You have to stop and put your clothes on.
You have to. Everyone knows if there's a fire on your street, even if it's like 6 houses over, you have every right to go out on the street naked at that moment and run down the street screaming.
Okay, I guess I'm talking about a scenario where it's like full-blown smoke in your living room and you have to just like run out on the street. If you're already wearing clothes, you don't even stop and have that thought of like, am I appropriate? And you're able to just be on the go. You could sleep in sneakers for that reason too.
Okay.
So sleep in your full like Lululemon running regalia.
It's sad to me that nudity is perceived as such a threat to others in our society that a person would burn to death because they were trying to put their clothes on in an attempt to be modest on the street.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was okay. I won't take a sidebar on that, but
please, I invite you to.
okay. I was at the YMCA yesterday.
Yeah.
Tank soaked in sweat.
Yeah.
And I just showered, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna walk out the front door without a shirt on. That's okay. And they told me, excuse me, sir, by the way, sorry, but you have to wear a shirt in here. And from where we're standing, the pool is visible. There are big glass windows. No one in the pool has a shirt on. I didn't make this point, but the conversation that played out in my head after when I was walking to my car was, I'll start wearing a shirt whenever you start making everyone in the pool wear a shirt because we can see them right now. If you can explain to me how I'm hurting anybody, then
that's
I
really
will.
crazy. What is that policy? It's ridiculous.
You just have to wear a shirt in the gym. If I was using the equipment,
right?
But even then, I'm wearing a tank and my skin is coming in contact with it. It's not like I have special skin where my belly is. That's not where my arms are or shoulders are. You know, like
I barely know what you're saying, but yes, I do know what you're saying.
That being said, if people were fully butt naked and their asses were on the seats,
gross and distracting.
I wouldn't want that at my gym. Mm-hmm. I would want people to cover their butts while they're using equipment.
So
but
is
every
it more
other part
about,
of them,
is it sweat containment?
I don't think, because I get really sweaty in classes and no one's ever said, hey, you're not allowed to sweat that much here. That would be a bad gym. The gym that has a sweat limit.
Well, but I mean, like if you're using machines and you're really sweaty, but you have a shirt on, you're not creating as much of a puddle beneath you, like behind you, that someone else could slip on. I don't know. I agree that the rule
Once
is
I
ridiculous.
hit the point of saturation in my shirt, I do create puddles.
Right.
Yeah, and that happens.
Right. Yeah, I think that's pretty crazy. So yes, there are very specific scenarios where sleeping naked could be dangerous, but for the most part,
yes,
I think no. And also, you're wrong that many people do in fact sleep naked.
They do.
I think like half of the people that I know.
I would guess less than half for me.
Okay.
Just our N of 2 right here. Neither of us do.
Right. Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. No, you're right. You're right. Okay. Pichu. Next question. It sounded like a wimpy sneeze.
Sorry for that diversion. Gesundheit.
Okay. This comes from user 9 spelled out _16ths also spelled out. Ex-girlfriend, 42-year-old female, said she thought she was the best 35-year-old male could ever do. Is this something that is okay to say to another person? Have you ever heard it or said it before? What if she is right? There's a lot more I could and would share, but I want to keep it simple for now. So his ex said that she was the best that he could do.
I understand that.
What the fuck is what he's asking.
His question is, what the fuck?
His question is it okay to say that to someone? Has anyone said it to you? Have you ever said it? And what if she's right?
My gut is yes, it's okay to say to a person.
Mm-hmm. Because by what standard? Like Nazis won't come out and murder you for saying it?
Yeah, just that if I would look at what was her motivation behind saying that.
She said she thought she was the best I could ever do. I mean, I think it look, 9/16. Bottom line, it says way more about her than it says about you.
She felt undervalued by him. That's what she's saying.
Okay.
She's like, I sacrificed so much for you, and I could be with a better partner, but you couldn't, and you don't appreciate me. And this is the way that I'm going to express that.
Trying
is
to
that
create-
hurtful? Probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's okay to hurt sometimes.
Yeah.
It's probably not the most mature way to express this,
Yeah.
or the best way for your message to be received clearly.
Yeah.
But maybe it felt really good to her in the moment to
Yeah.
say it like that.
And I think that we can spend another minute like empathizing with him about like, yeah, of course it would be better if she hadn't articulated that idea. And I don't think that her articulation of that idea is any indication that it's true and that she's right. I think it's playing on, you know, an insecurity that she has and an insecurity that you have.
Oh, yeah.
That you know, oh, well, you better like come back to me because you're not going to do better
Yeah.
than this.
She's wrong.
She stuck that idea in your head so that you would play into it.
She has no way of knowing that
Of
she's the
course.
best you could ever do.
Yeah.
Or even really perfectly understand your criteria for evaluating what is good in a partner.
Yeah.
She doesn't know where you're headed. You're younger than her as well. You have more time in your life to develop and change your preferences and also your attractive qualities.
Mm-hmm.
You could always do better. Maybe not better for the you of the past.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, don't.
Don't buy
She's
into
not
that
right.
garbage. Yeah. Have I ever heard it or said it before? No.
I've heard people say that. They haven't said it to me. I've never said it.
Right. I guess I meant like in my personal experience. And so my ultimate advice is like, don't let it drag you down. Don't let it be like a self-fulfilling prophecy because you have so much time ahead of you and you will date so many other people. And there will be a time in the future, even though right now that feels like really raw and hurtful, where you're like, wow, I can't believe I even entertained that idea.
Yeah. And my alternate advice is feel the pain for this for as long as you want to.
Yeah.
And then when you're ready to stop, do some examination, like we just said, of where this is coming from in her.
Yeah.
And try to transmute this into pity or compassion for her that, oh man, she must have been in a lot of pain to have said that.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. 9/16. I need help 168.
I need help 168, all right?
My brother has an addiction to Minecraft. This is
okay.
serious. So just, you know, so you know, Rob.
Okay.
This is serious. He is 15 years old and about to drop out of high school because he can't stop playing the damn game. I know it's good. Seems like a funny thing to say. I know it's good, but the addiction has gotten to a point where he doesn't even want to come out of his room. We've tried talking, but he will just scream at us. Yesterday, he screamed some really insensitive stuff at my mom and made her cry. And no, he doesn't have any mental disorders. Can I get some advice on what to do?
Yeah, look for the ways your brother is feeling disconnected from the people around him and listen to him about that.
I think this is tough. I totally agree with you, but I think it's definitely tough to listen to someone whose primary output is like so angry and hurtful. Like you said, like he screamed at you guys, screamed at the mom. And so it's like he has these really big, tall, pointy walls put up around himself right now. But I do think that as long as you're not hurting yourselves, that's, you know, trying to connect to him in spite of that and just demonstrating like, we're here for you is the best you can do. I mean, in terms of tactical solutions, this is a tough one because, you know, behavioral addictions are a little less cut and dry than, you know, substance abuse where, you know, the sobriety is a little more nebulous with this. I mean, I think that taking away the game is at this stage probably an appropriate intervention given how much it's taken over in his life. But you are going to deal with a lot of anger and fallout from that probably. And so knowing how to pick up and fill in the space that will leave is important, and being sensitive to the fact that, yeah, he's going to be angry and he's going to say hurtful shit, and it doesn't really have much to do with you. It's like when an addict's like using and the substance gets taken away, like they are just looking for desperately like any way of trying to kind of poke you and invoke in you that the sense that they have, which is just like completely out of control and in pain.
Yes. I think that's if they get angry and that hurts, try to focus on their pain that is motivating that, and it will be easier to overcome the hurt that you feel from the anger.
Yeah.
In this case, I would consider asking to play Minecraft with them and then relating to them in game.
Yeah.
And if that puts them in a more comfortable state where they're happier or even just more expressive, less shut down, then you could have those conversations while you're playing.
Yeah.
Do they have friends in Minecraft? The people that they are relating to in the game, that could be an important relationship for them, and maybe you could join that. Being patient is important in this, and not if they do express anger or any kind of hurt or dissatisfaction, don't turn it around and tell them that they're ungrateful or that they have no right to feel that way. That will probably push them farther into the Minecraft. Even if it sounds ridiculous to you, and say that they're upset about not having their crust cut off their sandwich at 15 by their mom or something like that. If they say that, then say, okay, I'm just reflect it back to them without judgment of it or that they should be a different way. So they're probably going to focus on things that seem minute at the beginning in order to work their way up to the truth of what's actually hurting them.
Yeah. And that's a long, hard journey to arrive at the truth from the state that you're in when you're like wrapped up in an addiction. The other thing I want to say that the question alludes to is, and no, he doesn't have any mental disorders. It seems to me to be sort of an arbitrary line to draw to say like this person who has a behavioral addiction doesn't have any sort of pre-existing mental illness, because, addiction often goes hand in hand with a lot of other underlying issues. And so I just think that the reason I say that is I just want to point out that there's the implication of dismissing the interconnectivity of these problems.
Right.
And I want you, I need help, to encourage yourself and the other people that you're surrounding your brother with and your brother himself to look at sort of like the bigger picture and having empathy for each piece of what that might be and however it's manifesting. Like it might be an addiction, or it might be reacting with anger suddenly or having a tantrum. Yeah.
Isolation, self-harm, disengagement, depression. It could be any of those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I trust that the person asking us this is equipped to help this person some. They may not have all the tools, in which case, if they get to the point where they feel like they can't help anymore, it would be best to seek the help of a mental health professional in helping their brother. But I think that they can do a lot of this accepting and listening work because they clearly care enough to ask this question, and they're seeking help with it. So they're on the right path.
And I think that also this, your brother being 15 is still a very like flexible age. He's still developing his ideas and patterns about like, how does my family treat me? And how does my family regard this part of me that I'm dealing with right now? Like the window is still very much open for him to see you as someone who is compassionate to his struggle and open-minded and willing to work with him on it. The other thing I would point to too is like in an addict mindset also, there's a very black and white kind of way of thinking. And so the more that you can help him to see himself holistically and, feel into the gray area rather than being like, this behavior is good, this behavior is bad, overall is an important sort of mindset to encourage. So, yeah, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
Good work.
All right, so the next question. This comes from a male, and his username is Howdy Y'all 69.
Great.
And appropriately, he asks, how to trim pubes, ?
Okay.
I'm in 10th grade, and I'm unsure on how to trim down there and need info on how to do it before I start. It does get itchy, and I'm also started to get sexually active. How long to trim? Shave it all off, ?
All right. I advise against shaving because you'll get razor bumps or marks or irritation a lot easier that way.
If you shave, go with the grain of the hair
Yes.
rather than
And
against.
use plenty of hot water first to open up your skin.
This is what soap is for.
Use soap before shaving. Don't
Do
shave
not
with
shave dry.
soap as your lubricant.
water.
Use a shaving cream, just to clarify. So if you're going to go the
okay.
shaving route, first soak in hot water or a hot wet towel
Yeah.
for a couple minutes. Get things nice and warm, and then wash with soap and rinse off all the soap, and then apply shaving cream, and then apply gentle pressure with the razor in the direction of the grain and move slowly.
Wow.
Don't press too hard, though.
Okay.
It can be just a light pull across the skin.
So for a 10th grader, though, to shave seems perhaps maybe too extreme. Like, this may not be the style he's looking for.
Yeah, I'm going to advise just using a buzzer with the built-in guard extended to whatever that is. It's like 1/4 of an inch or something.
Yeah.
And just trim with that. If you don't want to have a unwieldy bush, this will take care of that completely.
Yeah.
You can put a pattern in, if you want to leave some of
Lightning
it.
bolt.
Yeah, whatever you want. A little Hitler mustache, whatever looks
Absolutely.
good for you. Just do that, and it's going to cause a lot less irritation. You're still going to get the optical enhancement of it looking like, this is a male, of having looking like it's a bigger dick because it's not shrouded in the bushes. And yeah, good luck. I mean, if you make a mistake, just don't keep doing it to yourself. Like if you shave in a way that it really irritates you, or
Yeah.
yeah,
Don't be afraid to abandon the track once you've started.
yeah,
Well, so for you, Rob is a strapping young man
you.
in touch with like being sexually active.
Sure.
What is your
I'm in touch with
what
it.
is your ideal situation?
What's my ideal situation?
Or what is your current, not like current situation, like
What do my
right
pubes
now?
look like?
What do you aspire for your pubes to look like? What do you go for? What's your strategy?
I keep it like a natural but tamed. So I don't do anything crazy design wise. I just reduce the length of everything pretty uniformly.
Yeah.
And I have a bit of a V cut in my abdomen that I try to accentuate by following those lines in a V.
Uh-huh. So you have two different lengths
I do.
that you go for.
Well, yes, I leave about 1/2 of an inch or so. I don't press the buzzer to my skin on the main patch of hair.
Right.
And then down the sides on my thighs more, I bring the guard back and I press it to my skin. And then those are much shorter hairs. And that creates the impression of like less dense hair in that area. So it makes kind of a upside down triangle or trapezoid.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the female perspective on this, which would theoretically be the recipient of this decision. Personally, I don't want a guy to do a whole lot of fuss about it. I get the idea of the like extra visual inch, hooray. But to me, and I guess I don't know what 10th graders are doing these days. Maybe they're all fucking bald as babies down there because they think they have to be like porn stars more so than like I feel pressured to be. But I would say sort of like less is more, not in terms of like hair remaining, but in terms of like do a process that's simple for you and feels, natural and isn't so like intense. You don't want to take your pants off and have a girl wonder, like, I wonder how long it took him to achieve that, is sort of what I would advise.
That is Morgan's perspective. Yes.
Totally.
There are women who like men that have more of a made up, tweezed eyebrows and have like put in the same effort that a woman often does in our culture to perfect, I'm using that in air quotes, their styling and tweezed every little nose hair and things like that. But
totally. And I mean, for the record, like I am someone who, tries to do minimal, but like striving for less and less, but like I curate my pubic hair situation. So like I'm
would
speaking
you care
from a
to
perspective
tell
of,
us since I've shared?
Sure. I want to finish my thought though. So it's like I recognize still and fall victim to, quote unquote, the double standard of like expectations, my expectations that are culturally formed for men and my expectations that are culturally formed for women.
Like that girls are supposed to do a lot of work on their bodies, and if a man does it, it's vain, bad. It's like girly.
Right. So I do a pretty like simple, not super skinny landing strip. I like there to be some hair there because I was self-conscious as when I was younger about like developing later and being skinnier and having sort of a like prepubescent body.
Yeah.
So anytime I've ever experimented with like shaving everything off, I have felt so, redundantly naked. And I just feel like a little child. So I like to have something there that's just like, yep, this is not a child that you're having sex with. Although I'm sure that there are some guys that I have sex with that would wish me to be a child.
You mostly hook up with pedophiles, right?
I mostly hook up with pedophiles if I can help it. But every once in a while, someone sneaks in.
It's right there in your Tinder profile.
Yes.
Pedos only.
Yes. Well, I have a young face. So,
sure.
I attract what I attract.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't gotten that much negative feedback from partners about anything that I've done. And times when I've been self-conscious about not being as groomed as I'd like to be, they don't give two fucking shits.
For anyone not watching a video of this podcast,
Which no one is because there's no video being captured.
For anyone not watching the video right now, Morgan would not be easily mistaken for a prepubescent girl. It's clear that this is a mature woman. Yes. It's clear that this is someone who has developed and reached sexual maturity. So the humor of this may partly be lost over audio, but she does not appear to be a single-digit aged girl.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. Double digits all the way. Until triple digits. Then I'm really going to be in my sexual
You're into
prime.
triple digits?
Right now?
I was making a sex joke.
Anyway, so look, you know what? Think about who are you as a person and what style do you want your pubes to embody?
Yeah.
Like what do you do with your hair? Like, are you going for something sort of like casual, laid back, or are you like super trim, super like sleek? How much care do you take care of the hair on your head? And so like, what would be in alignment with the kind of person that you see yourself as?
I agree with that completely.
Cool.
And this person has 69 in their username.
Yeah.
So they're probably interested in some oral sex.
That's a great point.
So I just want to make anyone is allowed to do whatever the fuck they want with their pubes.
Oh my God, 1,000,000%. Unless like it's like infect them in order to like infect the larger population.
Right. Or if you're getting a surgery, you have to have areas shaved. I've had that happen to me. But in everyday life, anyone can do whatever they want to style themselves and shouldn't be shamed for it. If you're having oral sex and a person has a particularly large amount of shedding pubes, it can just become a practical obstacle. So if you're really interested in it, number one is just to like pull and comb in some way with your hands in the shower to make sure that you don't have lots of loose hairs that would be getting in a person's mouth and interrupting the flow of things. And
pubes are real flow interrupters.
They are. And the second thing,
no one wants to see a stray pube.
Exactly, especially in their food. The second thing is if you have just trimmed or used a buzzer, then just wash and wipe extra more times than you think you need to get out any strays or hairs that would have been loosened by that process and could come loose.
And when you look down at yourself, does it look like a situation you want near your face to put in your mouth? Do that gut check.
In their own personal mouth? Because they might not.
I'm just kind of fucking around.
Okay, gotcha.
But, you know, it's one method of testing.
Yes.
Would this be good enough for my partner? Is it good enough for me? Would I want to put that in my mouth?
Yeah. If you put your dick in a bottle of Gatorade to sweeten it, what are you going to do with that Gatorade afterwards?
First of all, I really wouldn't recommend doing that because of like the interaction of like the sugar and the pee hole. I can't imagine that would be good.
And this is a 32-ounce bottle of Gatorade. Are you just going to waste all that Gatorade or are you going to drink it? Feels like a lose-lose situation to me. All right, good. Learn from our mistakes.
If I knew offhand what the slogan for Gatorade was, I'm sure there's a great joke there, but I don't know what it is.
Is it in you?
Perfect. I'm sorry that I laughed so loud into the microphone.
That's okay.
We don't need to talk about
Morgan's
it.
a quarter witch.
and half Italian.
She can barely hover on a broomstick. Her toes just leave the ground.
My hat's not that pointy. Okay. The next question in the lightning round, which will close the lightning round.
Ooh.
Oh, right? Don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Stormwatch.
Stormwatch.
Seems like forecast says clear skies in about 10 minutes.
Okay. This one comes to us from Cyclone619Y2J.
Y2J,
Very
not Y2K.
succinct.
Okay.
My parents are telling me to just settle with any career rather than working towards something better.
Ooh.
I'm
okay.
26. I want to get a fulfilling career. My parents are telling me to forget it and just do a simple job so I can pay the bills. Should I listen to them? Is it more important for me to simply get a job so I can pay the bills and live independently? Or should I work towards something better in the long run?
Okay. I relate a lot to the
Yeah.
situation they're in, but not their parents' reaction.
Oh, okay.
I'm thankful that my parents have been very supportive of my pie in the sky or unreliable career ideas. I would advocate, and I'm very financially privileged to have a safety net or backup if I couldn't pay rent for a month. To the point where I feel guilt saying those things on air. I would recommend that you figure out a short-term solution that allows you to work towards long-term goals of your career. So if you can find a job that will support you in the meantime, something that's shift-based. This is what a lot of actors in Los Angeles will get a job as a waiter or a bartender so that they can pursue their dream of being an actor, but they don't need to count on acting to give them money while they're building a base of connections and a portfolio. They can have a flexible schedule. And so I don't know what your career ambition is, but if you can find a complementary short-term money-making solution, I would recommend doing that. And ideally make that short-term solution something that also has opportunity for growth in it in case you're in that for a long time. Yeah, that's my advice.
Yeah, that's great advice. I just want to add a couple of things to it. The first being that you can also make it something where you meet people. So you feel like you can kind of network and see what other people are doing with their lives. And because sometimes when you end up taking a job that's temporary, it can align with that sense of sort of stagnation or it not leading to anything. And if you're meeting new people and you have a continual sort of influx of, oh, it's interesting what this person is doing, kind of energy, like something like a Lyft driver, an Uber driver, a Starbucks cashier, what is it, barista, whatever, something in that arena where people are constantly coming in and out and you get exposed to new energy and it's not as like bleh. Could be another way of adding a potential bonus to something that you see as kind of otherwise like this isn't really helping me accomplish my longer term goals. The other thing I would say is there is a middle ground between, like Rob said, a middle ground between just having a job that pays the bills and or just having a job that is your passion. So one thing, if your parents are amenable to it, that you could do is work with them to come up with a timeline of like budgeting and a time frame for when the career that would be your more passionate kind of fulfilling career would realistically pan out and pay out so that they feel like, okay, there's some structure to this period where I don't know, so your son or daughter is working towards their goal and not just kind of like aimlessly hoping it falls in their lap, but has a guideline for, when they see that period ending and when they're going to be able to stand alone. And then if that period runs out and you haven't been able to procure something that is fulfilling and, money making, then it's on you to provide the financial support for yourself. So that's just one idea of how you could approach that conversation with your parents as well.
Yes. Good advice.
Cool beans. I gave it to a client recently. So, all right, that concludes our lightning round.
The sound of sunshine reemerging from behind the clouds.
Yes, exactly.
I can't make it with my mouth, but we'd all recognize it if we heard it.
Yeah. How's that?
It's way better than I could have done. Sounded
needed that
mostly
today.
like it.
All right. So our main question today, which
Ooh.
yeah, I allowed us to get into some meat within the lightning round because I think that this one could, be interesting discussion, but also we don't have to be in it for so long because there aren't so many details.
That was great, by the way. I like the way this has been set up so far.
Yeah, you liked doing the lightning round first? I kind of did too. It helped lift me out of that shithole I was referring to earlier that I was in. But anyway, so the reason I chose this question is because it's something that I've encountered a lot, and I am just selfishly, personally, so curious about it.
Okay.
So I'm very excited for
I'm
your
stoked to
feedback.
Mm-hmm.
hear it.
Yeah. Okay. So this one comes to us from lovelylovelywoe, as in WOE, sadness, woe, boohoo, woe.
Not like a friend.
What?
I just learned
That's a
recently
meaning of
that
woe?
when Drake says running through the six with my woes, he's not talking about his sadnesses. He's talking about his
Really?
friends. Yeah, his
Really?
buddies, his guys, his dogs.
That seems like it would be confusing.
I know, it is. It sounded a lot to me. I loved the original impression
Yeah.
I got of the lyrics that he was making a song that sounds like that, and he was talking about his woes, like woe is me. But no, that's not what he's talking about.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that
I
type
was
of
thinking, whoa, like, whoa there, like you would to a horse,
Oh.
something like
woe.
that.
No, WOE.
Yeah. So, okay. Why is it that every time I text this guy, he's always talking about himself? It's gotten to the point where I don't even want to reply because he doesn't seem to care about anything in my life. But I'm curious as to why guys do this. Are they trying to be impressive and convey a cool life, or is it just narcissism? I love this person. I already know 100% he likes me because he told me. So why isn't he trying to get to know me? Why is he always talking about himself? Seriously, every time I bring the conversation about me, he reverts it back to him or his family or his day or anything of his. Advice? Question mark.
He's probably inexperienced and doesn't know how.
Okay, so that's it. We're done?
You don't like it when I say a sentence and stop. You want me to linger and ramble.
Maybe because that's what I do. That's my approach.
I think it's threatening to you.
Linger, ramble,
That's my
never really
guess.
arrive at a point.
Yeah.
Be self-conscious the whole time that you're not finding the right words.
It's good to use silence. You've made a point and you want to just let it sit.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so that's what I was doing there.
So you're proposing a different alternative, which is inexperience.
He, either way, he probably just does not yet know the value of seeking information about a person that he likes. If you're correct that he is into you,
Yeah.
then he's probably more concerned with the way that you view him than what he'd like to know about you. He's like made his mind up on you, and that could mean that he's not really seeing you as you are, but he's seeing a projection that he's painting on your canvas. Which all of love, I think, does some of that, and that can't be completely avoided, but he may be doing it to a degree that you find undesirable.
Yeah. And I don't think that we should throw out the is he a narcissist path.
Sure. I don't know too much about narcissism. Maybe you could give a better explanation of that
Sure.
and how she would tell if he is or what
Sure.
that means if he is.
Entails and what it means. Yes. I am becoming somewhat of an amateur expert, which is sort of an oxymoron, on narcissism. And so there's kind of two operating ideas of narcissism, right? So there's like narcissism in the way that we use it most often conversationally, which means basically like selfish, self-absorbed, self-involved, into themselves, like excessively into oneself and not paying as much attention to what's around them. And then there's sort of the like more of the psychology textbooky kind of definition of narcissism, which is related to that and often shows up appearing that way. But it's more of a developmental arrest that makes someone not really properly shed childlike egocentrism, which means just like they see the world as oriented around them. You know, it's like when like, ancient China literally thought that like everything orbited around them just because they didn't have more information to go on and understand that the solar system is the way that it is. Like, no, Earth is one planet. We all orbit around the sun.
So to give an example, if I walked in today and was upset that, say that you were feeling low energy because you had just been fired from a job or you had just been broken up with or something.
Sure.
And all I saw was how could she ruin this podcast for me when we were going to have a high energy, fun day? Why is she doing this to me?
Totally.
And I'm not at all empathizing
Yes.
with your situation.
It's a very narcissistic framework because,
Okay.
yes, it assumes that the thing that's going on with me is about you, and it assumes that everyone's focus should be about the thing that you're
Yes.
focused on.
Yeah.
So that's a great example. So I do think that certain situations, certain contexts, certain emotional states can bring out more narcissistic or tendencies that appear narcissistic in different
Okay.
people for different reasons.
Do you think this situation,
I think it could
New
be.
Love, could?
I think it could be. I certainly do.
How would that work?
Yeah, so I have had a few situations, and I think also this has a gender. There's a gender relationship here, which is another reason I wanted to dive into this
Okay.
specifically, because I think that women, myself included, often expect and want to kind of be pursued, to be understood, to be asked about, and that's a primary way for like men to show interest in us, and also to remove the hanging question of like, is he interested in anything about me other than like sex or some
The orgasm that he could use me to get.
Sure, right. So it's like needing me to be like, I wouldn't want to be with someone who wasn't appreciating the much larger package of who I am. And so, I mean, it's great that he's already like, whatever, I like you. So that's it, check in that box. But at some point, the relationship is going to have existed for enough time that another layer of unwrapping is going to be involved. And I think we want to deeply be seen. And so the fact that someone is not trying to do that, regardless of the reason, is pretty disconcerting. And maybe some people that's not a priority to, but clearly that's not this person. And it's like, it seems like this person has already identified that it's a pattern. It's not like, okay, try a few more times and see if it develops into a pattern. It seems like it's already a pattern. Like every time I text him, and she's already doing the testing of like, I try to talk about me, he brings it back to him. So there are a couple of different, like, I mean, obviously you can just be like, you know what? This person is not what I'm looking for. We're not a good match. I deserve someone or want someone who is more attuned to what's going on with me, and there's a more even exchange of information.
I wouldn't start with that step, but I agree it's an option.
Right. So that's one option, is disengaging from the relationship. Now that we've laid that option out there, let's focus on what can we do within the relationship, assuming we want to keep pursuing it.
I think you express this observation that you've had.
Yeah.
You tell him the feelings that are associated with it, and then you tell him that you think you have a need to be understood or feel like there's somebody who's curious about knowing more about you. And so then make the request, could you, in some of these situations, ask me more questions about parts of it that show that you're interested in me, and not talk about yourself in those moments.
Yeah. I think that's great because, yes, you've already done the testing of like, okay, this is a pattern. I'm not making this up. So the only way really to nip it in the bud is to confront him with it. See how he responds.
I think it's important to note some people think asking questions is rude. And he could be someone who's like well-intentioned, and maybe he does want to know things, but he's worried that it'll be like an interview. Maybe he heard that sometimes like, oh yeah, people don't like being bombarded with questions, and he could be overcompensating for that. So that's why open communication is the best policy in most situations like this, where something annoys you about a person, because they could be well-intentioned and think that they're doing the thing that serves you best. And so you just ask them for the thing that serves you better. And often there's no resistance to that. They're happy to hear that information.
Yeah. And it sounds like you're already kind of, which I would be too, and am in the situations where I'm experiencing the same thing, already kind of like frustrated by the premise that he's not meeting this need. And so it's hard not to start that conversation with a sense of like, fuck you, are you a narcissist? But as best as you can, try to express what Rob said and bring it to his attention like neutrally, with the energy of like probably he's not trying to ignore me or being malicious or a narcissist fundamentally. But, you know, it's okay to be annoyed with that because realistically, we should all be striving for more balance.
Yes.
And we can't all always be aware of where there isn't balance. So the ways that you can friendlyly point it out to him, I think that he would probably appreciate it. And if he doesn't, then ding, ding, ding. He's defensive about it and gets maybe too emotional, and you realize, whoa, this is a hornet's nest, and this person isn't going to be able to meet my needs because there are big emotional obstacles in the way, and this person needs to take up more space than I'm willing to give them. They have a lot of attachment to taking up that space, and it's not going to work for you.
Right.
It's okay.
Yeah, and not at this moment on their journey. They may change into a person who is more compatible with you later, but for now, you might decide this doesn't work. I'd like to, I'll tell you what I want to say.
Yeah.
And if you have something more focused on this.
Yeah.
I'm interested in exploring charisma in general and the mistakes people make in trying to get others to like them. So this would be kind of more advice for the guy in this situation who's not typing the question.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is related to this because the other part of the question that I don't want to ignore is, why do guys do this? Are they trying to be impressive and be cool?
Yeah.
So same thing.
Okay,
let's
I
go
want
there.
to answer those questions. I forgot that they were asked.
Fuck yeah.
I think one of the biggest mistakes people make in trying to get others to like them is they try to impress them and convince other people that they are the mistake would be, I want Morgan to like me, so I'm going to convince Morgan that I'm interesting.
Right.
I should be, if I want Morgan to like me, convincing Morgan that she is interesting. That is the person that she would want to go on a second date with. Would you rather go on a second date with the most interesting person that you've ever had a conversation with, or the person who made you feel like you were the most interesting person that they've ever had a conversation with? Now, there's some balancing in dating and in finding a mate, and you don't want someone that's like so far below you that everything you say sounds so profound to them.
Right.
But if they casually if they open you up to seeing the good side of yourself, and you're a person who has a belief that you are worthy and that you're inherently good or lovable, that's an important caveat because people who have a very negative self-image will not be comfortable around people who view them this way.
Long term. I think in the immediate term, they can potentially seem super flattered by the way that you're showing them attention.
Yes.
But then they might actually be threatened by the deeper truths about them that you're trying to unfold, which is that they're worthy and lovable.
And them disagreeing with you will cause them to see you as crazy or needy or like in some way just wrong because they believe so firmly that they're bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is from a book called The Charisma Myth about the difference between, I believe, two presidential candidates. I can't remember the particulars, but one of them, this interviewer said, was like, this person seems like the most interesting person that I've ever interviewed. And the other person made me feel like I was the most interesting interviewer that could be talking to them at the moment. And I much preferred the experience of talking to the latter. So the three components of charisma, according to this book, are warmth, power, and presence. So the scenario I was describing about hanging on their every word and that being unattractive to a person could mean just a lack of power. So that's one important component is you have to first have the impression that you have something, you could help them if you wanted to. And then warmth is that you would want to help them. And then presence is that you are with them enough to understand how you would help them, like that you're seeing them enough. Yeah. So the big hit to everybody's charisma in the last decade has been the phones that has reduced all of our presence in social
More than
interactions.
anything else in medicine?
Bigger than even germ theory is phone invasion. Yes.
I just take issue with like all generalizations, even though I make them. So that's why I'm like continually like poking at this idea. And now Rob's coughing. Are you done coughing? I'll let you go back to your thing.
Give me shit for coughing.
No. I was like, well, I'll just keep saying my point if you're coughing anyway.
Okay. Now, the first story he's overgeneralizing. No, he's fucking coughing. Listen, guys, do you want to just go into my spin-off podcast, Morgan Beard's Free Advice? Okay, I'll see you guys on
No, no, definitely not.
That's not what you said. I
it's
misheard
funny
you.
because I was just thinking like 30 seconds ago, like, good Lord, Rob is carrying this and I'm doing nothing. Like, and I'm worried about it becoming a general pattern where I'm like becoming like, in general in my life, where I become dumber and can't recall anything and can offer no one anything. And I'm just sitting here like taking up air. But you know, that's
Not at
me.
all.
And when I bring that to when I bring that energy to a conversation, I know that I'm not having charisma at all. I'm just being merely a succubus for other people's charisma. And I'm not bringing the best of myself to the table. But it seems like the failing that, you know, this guy has who's not asking about you is he's trying to fake the power by impressing you with like things about him or like telling you things about him that will theoretically make you conclude, oh, he's this type of person or that type of person, when really what he should be doing is just embodying that power and demonstrating that he is the guy who listens, takes care of you, is generally impressive just in the way that he shows up. And then that brings us to like the second thing that he's not doing is he's not present with you, attuning to like what are her needs in this situation. He's anticipating them without actually reading them. And I think
Yes.
the phone is a big problem in this particular. It's hard to be present with someone digitally.
The quote or adage that's coming to mind as you talk about power for me is that true power need not announce itself. Like other people will do that for you, or you're just where you're positioned in an organization or in the world. You don't have to tell people that you have power. If you do, they'll figure it out from other things, and that frees you up to then be present with them and stop focusing on the impression that you're making as well.
The other thing about being present with somebody is when you are focused on them and asking them questions about their life, that's so much less work for you, and it's so much more likely to pay off in terms of how they will feel about you. But you wanted to make a larger point about phones. And I want to give you that forum back because I think it's important.
The presence is one of the three essential components of charisma, and it's the phone that is constantly at each of our disposal, nipping at the heels of our attention, is distracting us in a way that makes everyday interactions with strangers or acquaintances or even loved ones much less charismatic and present, just because eye contact says a lot. And if a person is checking their phone while you're giving the answer to their question, it does not communicate to them that you how did I explain presence? That you see them well enough to help them and are able to. That's the warmth and power parts.
Yeah. I think as someone who frequently struggles with maintaining enough presence when one thing is going on, I feel like actually to bring it back to the sort of addiction topic of before, for me, I find myself compulsively without intention in like a conversation or something like this where I should be, when Rob is talking to me and telling me his point of view on this, I want to be, I strive to be listening to him fully and being present with what he's saying and not allowing my mind to shoot off in a ton of other directions, whether it be something that I label as productive, like trying to come up with what I'm going to say or thinking back to the question and wondering, oh, what's the structure of this? Or, what's the tone of the podcast? What else do I need to bring? And like compulsively, I go into those pockets and I have to really actively bring myself back into trying to be 100% within the moment as it is. But I think that what causes that on sort of an unconscious level, that external seeking, is like a deeper, more ever-present dissatisfaction with feeling like the moment itself is enough. And we have such a culture right now of like do more, multitask more, be this kind of person, that kind of person, occupy all these different roles, maintain all these different relationships at all these different levels, and do this job and that job, have the career for passion, have the career for money, do these recreational activities, have these friends. And it's more and more and more and more things to load our brains with. And then when we have a moment where we have the opportunity, which any moment is, to drop into like full presence with ourselves and with what's unfolding around us, it's extremely difficult not to compulsively search for and pull in those extra things to like fill out the 10% of like your attention that wants to tell you like what I'm doing right now isn't enough. You should be also.
Yes. It's like being on a treadmill for 2 hours, and when you step off and you try to keep your legs still, they want to keep moving like that. Like, oh, the ground's still moving, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like making that mistake of falling into the illusion that if I were doing something else simultaneously, I would be getting a better outcome. I'd be enjoying the moment more. I'd be more fulfilled, more sustained, happier.
Yeah, one source of happiness plus another equals two. That like texting while watching this movie means I get all the fun of texting and all the fun of the movie.
Yeah.
And that's a fallacy.
You know what I find when I do that?
What?
Texting isn't fun and I'm not watching the movie at all. And I'm sitting there and my brain hurts because there's just so much screen information in front of me that I'm rapidly switching between. And yeah, the studies show that like multitasking, we think we can multitask so well. And even as I'm reporting the statistic, I'm like, fuck the statistic. I can multitask so well. But like the process that our brains undergo to switch gears between doing different things is so energetically costly that it completely like, you know, it invalidates the argument for trying to multitask and exhausts us. And then our experience of trying to do both of those things is, you know, like revving an engine and not going anywhere.
Yes.
Even if we do get two things done sort of half-assedly. It sucks and it like hurts. You can feel your brain like grinding its gears in there, just being like, with all this competing information.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted, but that felt good to articulate.
Yeah. Good job.
Hey,
I think that was good for you to say.
Me too.
Yeah, I can see your body language change after that.
Well, because it's such a live struggle that I'm going with right now with all this stuff that I was telling you about that's bringing me into the fog of like having to focus on this podcast with 90,000 other things like zipping around my brain. And it's like doing the work of convincing myself that those 90,000 other things are going to continue to be there while I'm recording and it's not going to help me to devote 5 to 10% of my energy to worrying about the fact that they still exist and will always interchangeably to some extent exist in my life.
Yeah.
And so it's like show up 100% in the thing you're doing as often as you possibly can. I mean, obviously there are times that you can't, but when it is in your control, recognizing it and clocking in more and more often. It reminds me of this lucid dreaming technique, this technique for inducing lucid dreaming.
I think I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I used to, in high school, want to like try to, you know, wake up into my dreams and be able to control them because I was so dissatisfied with my life, as I said, at 17. So I would practice these different techniques throughout the day where basically I would just, every time I remembered to do it, I would do the following. I would pinch myself. That's one of the things that you can do. Look at your hands is another thing that you can do. And then a third thing is look up at the clock, notice what time it is, look away from the clock and look back at the clock and see if the time is the same or different. And so the theory is that...
It should be different, right?
No, it should be the same.
If it's a broken clock.
Okay, but so in a dream, your brain just registers, that's a clock there. Yeah. And then when you look back at it, it's like, that's a clock, but it just conjures like another image of a clock, so it'll be like a completely different time. You
Unless
know,
your dream gets lucky and it just happened to roll the dice. The same clock twice. Lucky dream fooling me.
But so the idea is that if in waking life, you are instilling in yourself that pattern of consciousness where randomly you remember, oh, let me check in and do this thing, that will happen in your dream. And when you do any of those three things in your dream, it's supposed to kind of trigger the knowledge that you're dreaming for one reason or another. And so instilling a practice of like mindfulness or increased presence and consciousness throughout anything that you're doing during your waking life is kind of the same. It's like every time you remember, let me check in with myself. Am I being 100% present right now? The more you do that, the better. And that's how it works. It's not like you suddenly are like this fucking guru sitting there with your legs crossed, levitating a foot off the ground all of a sudden. It's a hard process. And And it takes a lot of reminding yourself and celebrating the little victories, like every time you remember to be conscious, instead of punishing yourself for not being conscious. Did any of that make sense?
I think you're describing a mindfulness meditation.
Yeah,
and that's
just
why people
living
call
mindfully.
it a practice, not something that you've attained, but it's
Yeah.
something that you can do more or less often. And that's what building in like 10 minutes of meditating every morning is meant to do, is to get a person to just get into the practice of noticing their thoughts, noticing their internal state throughout the day more often, and not identifying with it, but recognizing it as something that can be pursued or let go, instead of it just being them.
Right. And so, when lovelylovelywoe checks in with this dude, remembering to kind of encourage him that, like, this is a practice. It's not you're doing all these things wrong by not remembering when you're being kind of self-involved by talking about yourself so much. It's like, oh, okay, so let me check in with myself and evaluate. Does it feel like it's time to ask my sweetheart here, lovelylovelywoe, about herself? Like, let me evaluate, and not getting too stuck on, well, shit, I fucked up.
Yeah.
Because that's a trap. That's a trap we all fall into, where you want to beat yourself up first, thinking that that's going to help you not make the mistake again. But it doesn't. It just makes you wallow, and then you're more bummed out, and then you're more sort of self-involved.
Good work.
Yeah.
Strong sigh.
The lessons we're all learning: self-compassion over and over and over and over, and compassion for others over and over and over.
And responding to the ways that people tell you how they'd like to be loved.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I'd like to say that pretty soon we're going to have to start wrapping up. And I'd like to invite you to share any more thoughts that you have for this answer now, if you've got other stuff that you'd like to discuss.
Rob is doing a great job of implementing the discussion that we had last week about not cutting me off, about how we've properly addressed all the points of this question. So congrats, Rob.
Yeah, I'm fucking killing
You're
it.
fucking killing it.
I'm flexing so hard right now.
Flexing so hard. No, I appreciate that you communicated that.
Yeah.
And I feel pretty good about what we've told our friend here. Yes, maybe he's trying to be impressive and cool. Maybe he's a narcissist. It's up to you to try to ask directly as you can and find out. And do I think in general some guys are less mature than their female counterparts of the same age and tend towards narcissistic tendencies? I don't know. We all do it.
No,
we all do it.
I think that women mature
But
quicker
yes.
out of biological and evolutionary necessity.
And are just in general more kind of like focused on maintaining emotional balance and checking in with other people, because that's just a more sort of feminine trait. I mean, men can be more feminine, but
There's a higher percentage of women who do that by default, more than men.
Right. So, be kind with him, be kind with yourself. If you feel like he's not meeting your needs, there will be someone else who likes you and asks about you. No doubt in my mind.
Yes. I have lots of questions for this person. If they have a podcast, I hope that they send us the link that we can ask them questions about themselves.
Yeah. I would love to know more as well. I want to have this conversation with you about men being narcissists.
Okay, we can
and
do
I
it.
want to share my opinion on
Sure.
men in my life that I'm currently struggling with in this exact arena.
I'd love to hear it off camera.
We are off camera. I'd love to see it off mic. Yeah. And that really, honestly, like, thank you for inspiring me, because I am going to go out there and have the conversations with those men as compassionately as I can to try to feel into, I would really appreciate, I want to make you aware of this imbalance that I perceive, and I would really appreciate that we work on it together. So thank you for often, asking the question invites the advice giver to reflect on it for themselves. Because it can be a win-win, baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I think that brings us to our closing remarks
Closing remarks?
for Free Advice, episode
Yeah.
17, like the magazine, no affiliation.
What's funny is that, like, you don't, by the time you're actually 17, you don't want to be reading a magazine that's targeted towards your age. Like, you're reading 17 at like 13.
People are interested in content that portrays characters slightly older than them until they feel like they're too old and then they want to watch what the kids are doing again.
Oh, interesting.
I think.
Okay.
I'm just coming up with this now, but
Yeah.
like who watches that show? What's that HBO new show with Zendaya? That's
Oh my
getting all
God,
the press?
Euphoria! I
Yeah.
just started watching
Those kids
it.
are younger than you, right?
Oh yeah, this is about high school.
Yeah.
And I'm almost 30.
I don't think I've watched a high school featured thing I haven't gotten into like a high school setting
Yeah.
since I was in high school,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, I'm curious about it. You know, I have clients that are younger,
Yeah.
and I am interested in the human experience for any kind of subset of humans, I think. And I do think the teenage years are like, you know, a sexy example of that.
Sure.
Not because I'm sexually attracted to teenagers
But because
necessarily,
you feel you are a sexy teenager.
but because on the inside I'm just a sexy teenager
resemble
like
one.
everyone else. No, but I mean, like, you know, HBO is probably going to be more successful if they're doing if Drake is producing a show about high school and drug use.
Drake produces
and
that show?
relationship. He's one of the producers. Then, you know, who's a really old celebrity?
Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins producing a show on actually, this would be really interesting, like sex lives of old people in
Yeah.
nursing homes. Actually, that shit is like rampant, and there should be a show on that.
And we
Get to it, Anthony.
we use Zendaya in Old Face. We like just use that phone app that everybody's posting pictures on Facebook of themselves.
Yeah.
Where it makes you look old, and we just use today's young hot stars, but it's set in the future. So it's like they could actually do this if
Rugrats
all
all
the
grown
predictions.
up.
I haven't seen that
Yeah.
porn parody, but I'm sure that it's good if it's one of your go-tos and you know it
No,
by name.
no. Nickelodeon made it about the Rugrats grown
Nick
up into
Dabbled in the
teenagers.
porn space.
Nope, there's no porn at all.
Are you sure you're not thinking
You
of
injected the
Dickelodeon?
porn.
You're thinking of Dickelodeon.
Nickelodeon.
You're right. Great.
All right, come on. You come up with a great pun, and you know what? All I want to do is like latch myself onto it and be like, here's this other thing that you may not have realized you were doing. You're such a creative genius. Please be my friend.
Don't you see the opportunity to fit load into that word? It's a load-bearing word now. All right, guys. Good night. This has been fun.
Send us your calls for advice. We cannot wait to talk to you, and you know, do it up.
Do it up, as
Do-
we always
just
say.
do it up.
Do it up. Don't do it down. Till next time on Free Advice.